Now, of course, long story short, the videos that I thought were bad ended up doing great. And then what I always say is the grass is greener where you water it. So if you
Mm-hmm.
do 10 videos on TikTok, but only take one or two of your favorites and post on other platforms, guess what's going to do best? The TikTok platform. And
Mm-hmm.
that's just where I kept finding really great conversations. I found people who wanted to engage with a financial planner and have nerdy conversations about backdoor Roth conversions and just different tax strategies and retirement strategies, investment strategies.
Welcome to Beyond the IMO, where financial industry leaders will challenge your perspective and offer strategies to help you thrive in your independence. Here's your host, Justin Woodbury.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are and whenever you're listening to this. Welcome back to Beyond the IMO. I'm excited about today's session. I want to give a little bit of context before we get into it. Have you ever had a moment that was kind of like an aha moment? I'm sure you have. If you haven't, you probably need to surround yourself with people smarter than you. I have no problem doing that. But I had a moment in 2022 that kind of changed a lot of the way I think and operate. And the context is this. Back in 2010 or 11, I was working with a gentleman. He wanted to record a video on his website. And I have a little bit of background in doing recording and editing and how to best present yourself and all of that stuff. So I was giving him some help, and I recorded the first time he went through the video, and I was like, okay, Ray, you're choppy, you have no inflection, you need to pause more, you need to have more expression. And I just tore it up, and then we did it again, and then I tore it up and we did it again. We spent probably 3 or 4 hours working on that 15 to 20 second video, and at one point he almost stopped because he was getting so frustrated. But I thought that he needed to have it perfect before we went out and put it on his website. And I said, we have to have a good first impression. You don't want people to see that video and walk away because they don't like the way you sound or the way you look or what you're saying or how you're saying it. So I used that video. I used the first one. He gave me his permission. I used the first video he recorded and then the very last one. And there's a significant difference between the two. And I used to use that for years when I was getting up in front of advisors saying, hey, if you're going to put a video out there, if you're going to put anything out there, good is the enemy of the best. You have to have the right equipment. You have to practice. Don't wing it. You have to make a great first impression. And although that is true, I don't not agree or believe that anymore. Something happened in 2022. So my guest today is named Colin Overweg. He's become a friend. But in 2022, I came across his profile on Investopedia. He was being honored as one of an advisor that you need to be looking out for. And so I was looking for a potential guest for another podcast I had. So when I Googled his name, I found his videos on YouTube and on TikTok and on LinkedIn. He was all over the place. And his videos, especially on YouTube and LinkedIn or TikTok, had hundreds of thousands of views. And I was watching them just kind of scratching my head because there's nothing wrong with them. They're great videos, but he wasn't using professional equipment. He wasn't sitting in front of a professional studio. He wasn't doing 90% of what I had been telling advisors for 10 or 12 years, what they needed to do if they wanted their clients to take them seriously. So I was curious about that. And I had him on the podcast, and we talked about his videos. And I just asked him about that. I'm like, I noticed you don't use a professional studio and you're not using professional equipment. And he laughed and he's like, I don't know if you saw it or not, but one of my videos, I actually have a mustard stain on my t-shirt. And that's one of people's favorite videos. And he said, people love people that are being sincere and that are raw and authentic. People are attracted to the authentic person, somebody that is authentic. And he said, if they're not the right client. So people like doing business with, they know, like, and trust. And if they don't know, like, and trust you, then they're not a good client for you. He's like, so I'm just my authentic self, and people that show up to my appointments and that reach out to me are attracted to that. And TikTok was his number one source of clients, which was fascinating to me because I never thought that somebody would attract clients through TikTok. And I assumed that they were a younger generation. And he said, no, I have people in my 60s and 70s that are clients that reach out to me all the time from TikTok. So I'm going to get into this session. He's my first repeat guest, I guess I could say. I can't show the previous episode from 2022, but he's a repeat guest from this episode. And the three biggest lessons that I walked away from that first episode with Colin was one, frequency and consistency win over perfection every single time. It's not really that good is the enemy of the best. It's best is the enemy of the good. The second thing I learned is that grass is greener wherever you water it. And I don't want to take away from the podcast, so I won't get too deep into this, but Colin talks about how at first he was just recording on TikTok because it was a great editing platform. So he would practice 10 different videos on TikTok and then pick the best one and then post that on the other platforms. And he found out after several months that his biggest source of appointments were from TikTok because he was posting 10 times more on TikTok than he was on any other platform. And he had a waiting list when I talked to him in 2022 from clients that found him on TikTok. That was his number one source of leads. And so we've stayed in touch over the years, and I'm glad to have him on the podcast. I don't want to oversimplify the power of the rest of our conversation because we talked about some really good things, but consistency and frequency in marketing, and I always think marketing is that's what I did for 15 years. Frequency and consistency wins the marketing game every time. You don't have to be the best YouTuber. You don't have to be the best poster, but if you're doing it frequently and consistently, you're going to win. And I've helped thousands of advisors grow through intentional, frequent, and consistent marketing, regardless of the platform. So before we get into it, I just want to say it is a great episode to remind all of us that one good video posted on your site is better than 5 perfect videos that were never posted. And however you market, keep that in mind. One good regular post put out over social media is better than 5 perfect posts that never got put out there. One good invitation, one good website, one good radio spot, one good TV spot, whatever your marketing avenue or avenues are, frequency and consistency wins the game. One of those is better than anything else. Okay, off of my marketing rant. You're listening to Beyond the IMO, and here's my conversation with Colin Overweg. Thanks again for being on the podcast. You're my first guest, part 2, that I've ever had, so thank you.
Hey, glad to be here, man. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. So I know we talked a lot about your online presence, how you got started with TikTok, but for those who won't go back and listen to that video, can you just take me down memory lane a little bit and tell me about how you got started in the business and how you marketed yourself and what you're doing right now?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, not to go too far back here, but, people can listen to the other podcasts. We'll try to plug that as much as we can. But ended up going into the finance industry and, like a lot of people, started off selling insurance, realized that that's not real financial planning, but an easy way for a lot of firms to bring on young advisors with zero base salary, so they have very little capital skin in the game, and just tell people to go eat what you kill, and it's commission only. So I kind of grew up in that environment, realized I didn't love that, wanted to try to pivot to being more involved in the real financial planning, being able to do investments, be able to talk about incomes, expenses. Are you on track to retire? What other goals do you have? Instead of just selling insurance or just selling investments. So ultimately ended up getting my certified financial planning designation, which I do believe is still kind of the king designation in the financial planning industry or profession. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of different certifications out there. I still feel like that's probably the gold standard as we start to shift from an industry to a profession. I think it's kind of we're in that grow up phase where doctors have to go to medical school, attorneys have to pass the bar, CPAs have to have a CPA license. Yeah. And anyone can get their insurance license in 6 weeks and call themselves a financial professional or even financial advisor. That's very confusing to people out there. So I think getting that CFP designation is probably one of the gold standards. That's not to say that you can't do fantastic work without having that designation, and that's also not to say there's some bad CFPs out there, just like there's maybe bad doctors as well. But that was kind of the road I went. I certainly am glad I did. I loved the education. I flew through those books and read them in my personal time. It was just like enlightening. and I knew that I was on the right path when I just couldn't get my nose out of them. So that was back in 2017 that I got that designation. And then the problem though was even if you're at you do great financial planning, a lot of companies create their own investment products, as you're aware. So you may do great financial planning, but then at the end of the day, the company that you work for wants you to sell a product that they manufacture. And that was fine for a while, but just really kept rubbing me the wrong way. So finally in 2018, I went off on my own. I started my own RIA, Registered Investment Advisor firm, and wanted to just be independent. I was completely agnostic now to the products that I could use, and I was just purely charging for my advice. I wanted it to be me and the client, and whatever products out there we wanted to use, it wasn't going to impact how I got compensated. So that felt like the purest form of being able to give advice without having, at least reducing my conflicts of interest.
Yes.
So that's kind of just the baseline of trying to get into that space and actually do real financial planning, I call it. And then the problem is, once you start your firm, who are you going to serve?
That's right.
And that's where we kind of get into the marketing aspect. And when you start your own practice, you have a little bit of time because you're not serving a massive book of clients. So what I tried to do, I really did not love the asking and begging of people up front. I just didn't love that sales tactic of knocking on doors or cold calling. I did end up having a list of Dave Ramsey leads for a while there, because I did become a Dave Ramsey endorsed provider at one point. So that I kind of believed in his philosophy for the most part, and still do to this day. Probably 90% or 95% of what he teaches.
Sure.
And I think when you get into the details, you can probably do a better job than maybe his really broad strokes. But still big fan. And those felt like the people I wanted to work with. So that was kind of a way that I could at least have a little bit of my foot in the door, but that was definitely not going to be enough. So what I started doing was making educational videos for the very, very few clients that I had, or the clients who I wanted to be able to find. So let's say, for example, there was a doctor that worked at maybe Spectrum Hospital, and if I could just find my way into meeting one of these folks or having a friend, then I would be able to maybe ask them, hey, can I look at your employee benefits and just give some free advice or give some free education? And I'd start creating videos talking about those specific things that would be really easy for them to implement and watch without being so pushy, and trying to provide some value. So that started it was just a really easy way for that person to watch it and maybe forward it to another person that they would receive some benefit from it. And that's just me looking at the investments, looking at maybe what the disability insurance looked like, what the life insurance looked like, what I would use, what I probably wouldn't use, or maybe at least just things to consider, because of course I didn't know their situation perfectly. So that was just kind of my way to try to provide value first, and maybe they become a client second. And that really started to evolve into social media. And then all of a sudden I landed into TikTok world, where it was just such a great editing software. And to be honest, I thought that TikTok was kind of a cringy dance platform for little kids, and I didn't think that I was going to get a client from TikTok whatsoever. But the in-app editing software was really, really user-friendly. And that was a huge hurdle for myself and maybe a lot of advisors listening, that I'm not a tech-savvy, like a video editor. Like maybe I'm tech-savvy enough to run a virtual practice and jump on Zoom meetings, but not to be just cranking out really cool graphics and editing videos. And that wasn't what I wanted to do all day. So that's really where the TikTok platform was born, was that it was just so easy for me to put the camera in my face, make a video, maybe 60 seconds long, some very, very simple text on the screen, some very simple edits, and then boom, I would post it to, of course, TikTok, but then I'd repurpose that onto Facebook or YouTube, LinkedIn especially, because that's where I thought my clients were going to exist. Now, of course, long story short, the videos that I thought were bad ended up doing great. And then what I always say is the grass is greener where you water it. So if you do 10 videos on TikTok, but only take one or two of your favorites and post on other platforms, guess what's going to do best? The TikTok platform. And that's just where I kept finding really great conversations. I found people who wanted to engage with a financial planner and have nerdy conversations about backdoor Roth conversions and just different tax strategies and retirement strategies, investment strategies. And then for a few years there, I was taking on a client, at least having multiple inquiries a month, with successfully bringing on multiple clients per month as well, at least averaging somewhere around 1 to 2 legit clients per month, which is more than enough for me to stay busy, as I feel like taking on one a month is quite a successful practice for someone just getting started.
Yes.
So that's kind of where it started. And honestly, today, I have actually filled the cup up so much, I'm not even posting really anymore. I'm just serving a large client book here and trying to decide whether we're going to scale with advisors. Do I get back into the space to bring leads to other advisors, or do we kind of just stay where we're at? And I'm kind of dabbling with that today.
Okay, yeah. I think it's something interesting that you said about the posting 10 times on TikTok and a couple of times on LinkedIn. It sounds like you were consistent on LinkedIn and TikTok, but you were frequent and consistent on TikTok, which I think is like the double whammy, or the combination. Like, to be successful with anything in marketing, you got to be frequent and consistent. Would you agree?
I would. Yeah, that's the grass is greener where you water
Yep.
it. It's just engaging with those people is going to be the way to go. Not just the purest form. Now, I mean, everyone is going to have a different strategy, but that's where I really found the frequency to be really important.
Yeah. And we talk about this in the other session too, so people can listen to that. But by the time you got those 2 leads per month, were they pretty warm leads?
Yeah, so it started out, well, there's actually a couple pieces to it: warm leads and then also qualified leads. Because when it first started out, I had a lot of people book self-scheduling with me, because that was the process that the funnel I led people down, was to self-schedule on my calendar. And I was maybe at the peak having 5, 6, 7 meetings a week of people who wanted to get out of debt or wanted to know how to invest $1,000. And that's great. I love it. I wish I had a product for them to buy, but I just pointed them in different directions. Maybe the Dave Ramsey book as an example, or different investing platforms that I enjoy that they could do, self-directed. And what I learned was that I really got to try to limit these type of meetings. Otherwise, this is going to become a charity situation here. And I was very, very much hungry trying to grow the practice. So
Yes.
As much as I love it, and I gave those folks the best of my ability and for 30 minutes in those intro calls, that's not what I was trying to fill my calendar with. So in the funnel, I forced people now to watch a fee and service video. And they really weren't forced to. It was just like in the funnel that there was like, hey, I just said, watch this video first. And if you're still interested, then use the link below to self-schedule. And that dropped the inquiries 80%. And I thought maybe I got a little too aggressive with this, but to your point, when people finally watched the video, they found me from my content, they knew what I was going to charge, and then they still self-scheduled. I mean, I was probably closing 9 out of 10. And in some cases, it was a 1 meeting close where they were essentially saying, I just wanted to make sure you were real, and where do I sign? So that was just absolutely mind-blowing. I mean, I'm probably the most surprised person out of anyone when I tell that story. And it was it truly worked. Now, I will say, though, that takes a long time to finally build that rapport. So if you post your video on day 1, don't expect there to be a line out the door. Video 2, video 3, but you can't get to video 50 unless you do video 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yes.
And it's funny how it really does continue to snowball, because the first year I legitimately probably had one inquiry, and then the second year it probably grew, and I wish I had the numbers in front of me, to 25, and then the next year it probably grew to like 200. Like it just
Wow.
really exploded in that third or fourth year of consistently posting. But I mean, we're talking about like 500 videos here.
So yeah, I was going to ask. It wasn't overnight. It took 2 to 3 years. By year 3, you were cranking probably.
Exactly. I mean, I think it's in social media, it's kind of similar to investing. If you have a client that invests $100,000 and then they call you the next month and say, "Why didn't my money grow?" Like you would just say, "Well, duh, we have to
Right.
give it time." Like you're not going to double your portfolio on average until maybe a 10-year period.
Yeah.
For S&P historical averages. Now, that's very true for social media. Like if you post just once, twice, or even 1 year, 2 year, it's just that same compounding story. You can't really expect massive results until you do great work for a long period of time. And that's not what everyone wants to hear. Like there's
Right.
not necessarily a hard or an easy shortcut answer. I wish I knew. And if anyone in the audience knows of a shortcut, please let me know.
Well, the shortcut, and this is a completely different topic we could run down a rabbit hole on, but the shortcut is spending $10,000 or $15,000 to do like a targeted direct mail dinner seminar, because you can be in front of a qualified prospect. You could do a seminar today and be in front of a qualified prospect tomorrow. But what bothers me about a lot of companies that push those constantly is, I get it for the advisor who's just starting off in the business and they have that kind of money to spend. Usually, probably like yourself, you didn't have 40 grand to do 4 seminars in the next year, that were, one per quarter or whatever. And the advisors that do have that type of money just starting off, they get caught in this hamster wheel of continually doing seminars. And that's kind of what I want to kind of transition into, is what you're doing now to get appointments, because that's another thing that's rarely talked about. Because the advisor is the only person in this whole equation that feels the weight of an expensive marketing campaign. So if you do free videos on TikTok and repurpose them on LinkedIn and write 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, get that much in assets under management, or if like whatever expense you had there, you ate that expense. If I did 4 seminars in a row, spent 30, 40, $50,000 and got the same amount of assets under management, you're ahead of me. But the RIAs, the IMOs and stuff, they still get their override regardless. And so this is why a couple of years ago I wanted to talk to you about this, because it was not talked about in our industry. Because the industry's like, I don't think they do it on purpose, but they push high alternative, lead generation marketing, because it gets like it's a shortcut, and I get it. But at some point, they can do what you're doing now, which is, you said you stopped doing videos, and it's not because you were bored with them. I'm assuming it's because you have a pipeline of people coming to you, and it's not from videos. So can you talk about now, like, how are you getting your clients?
It's a complete 180. I mean, when I had 0 clients to serve, I had a lot of time to make content. And then I can just like watch the amount of videos that I posted over the last 5, 6 years just start to dwindle down as I was gaining more clients, had less time to post. And today, I'm serving darn near a full practice and posting very little. And it's really just because the need for new clients has diminished substantially, and the time to make content has diminished substantially. So right now I'm in that kind of dilemma where you have to decide, what do you want to be when you grow up here when it comes to this practice. And right now I'm very happy managing a highly profitable solo practice. I mean, I have one 1099 advisor with me and bringing on another one in January. And so I'm
Nice.
kind of dipping my toes into the water of scaling. But again, with the 1099 structure, it's not capital intensive at all, and just going to be slowly bringing some leads to those advisors. But I'm not making any promises that, hey, I'm going to be making content and bringing you, 2 leads a month. So you're kind of, we should have this video or this conversation another year from now or 2 years from now to see if that kind of pivots. But as of right now, the content has almost ceased to exist. And the referrals from 100 existing clients, even if 1 out of 10 send me a lead, that's almost 1 client per month that I'm bringing on just purely from organic word of mouth. And I'm still bringing on clients from the existing digital assets that exist out there. So I am more than busy, and if anything else, starting to increase fees just to try to reduce that demand, which is a wonderful problem to have.
So do you ask for referrals, or people are just giving them?
It's I really don't. I actually should be probably better about that. I do, though, very comprehensive planning, which involves a lot of questions. And a lot of times I'm asking a 45-year-old client, how are your parents doing financially? Like, do I need to have some money set aside in your financial plan to support them if they can't support themselves? Because that is a genuine reason for us to increase your emergency fund, or maybe be less aggressive with our investments. Like, what major expenses are going to pop up over time? And that just starts to go down the rabbit hole of, well, I actually have no idea how much my parents have. And I can just simply ask, well, are they living on Social Security? I have no idea. Like, that's probably something we should talk about. And like, that's not me trying. I mean, I am being nosy, of course, but I'm genuinely looking out for my client's best interest here. And it would really be helpful to know that. And then on the flip here, I work with a lot of retirees, and I ask, are you still subsidizing the kids like you did back when? Or do you suspect that you're going to have to support the kids at some time in the future? Same exact line of questioning. And just making sure that they're all set. And some people are very closed off, like, my kids are great financially, we don't need to include them in the future expense category, all is well. I'm like, and then the next question, of course, is, well, how do we want the beneficiaries listed? So I do end up knowing, or at least learning, these names, these birthdays, these addresses, and making sure that assets are titled correctly, or that they have their trust documents in place, and that the beneficiary is the trust, or the owner is the trust. Or if they don't need a trust, that they have their adult children listed appropriately on their accounts. So really, it's just kind of an organic questioning where it just happens naturally over the course of a year or two relationship. And I get a lot of referrals going up and down the chain of family members.
Wow. So children are introducing you to their parents, and parents are introducing you to their children.
Absolutely.
You know, it's interesting. I said you were a kind of an anomaly with what you did on TikTok, but I don't know if you realize it, but you're kind of an anomaly in that sense too. And here's why I know that. They say in the next several years, the great wealth transfer, that, what is it, $67 billion is going to be, or
I think it's in the trillions, but that
$67 trillion.
That number seems to change all the time. All I know is that people are getting older. I think it was actually just a record, like last month I heard that the most amount of people turning 65 ever was like last month, or is going to be next month. Like it's happening right now as we speak.
Right now. Mm-hmm. And the statistic that's pretty consistent is around 90% of children will not choose their parent's advisor. And when they've been interviewed and asked why, they say, because I don't have a relationship with my parent's advisor. I don't even know who they are. I just know that I'm supposed to call them when my parents die, but I have no intention on doing business with them. So whatever you're doing is working, because you're part of that 10% probably that is getting parents' children and children's parents. So it is it's very impressive that you're getting referrals like that.
I think that also speaks to one of the benefits of having a virtual practice. I mean, how many parents or kids, end up living in the exact same city, and a lot of times boomers are picking their advisor based on geography. And if their kid was born in Michigan, the parents live in Michigan, but now the kids live in New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, wherever, there's just even less reason, and maybe that advisor is not equipped to handle a virtual relationship as well. And then also, I mean, just having a more modern practice. I mean, in a lot of cases, offering more for less. I'm rescuing clients from advisors charging really high fees for only investment management, and they're not talking about taxes, they're not talking about the cash flow, they're not running retirement scenarios, they're not talking about where does this money go when you die. They're just doing the investment management stuff, which is fine. That was maybe worth 1% 10, 20, 30 years ago, but now it's not. I mean, technology and software has really democratized the ability to gain access to portfolio management. So one, clients have better options. They can use fintech platforms. They can use robo-advisors. If they're only looking for investment management services, that maybe is only worth, according to robo-advisors, a quarter of 1%, 0.25. So if you want to be able to continue to charge that 1% fee or 0.9 or 0.8, you better be doing some really great work and asking really good questions and being there when they need it and replying to emails and really doing a full-fledged service there. So the world has changed a lot, I think, for the better. I love seeing the competition, and when I stumble across some old school advisors, I'm just licking my chops here because I know it's going to be a slam dunk. I'm probably going to do substantially more for less, and everybody's happy.
It's funny because we've talked a lot offline and become friends, but I remember one of those types of conversations. It wasn't during a recording, but you said the exact same thing. You're like, man, I just licked my chops because I think I told you the company I was with at the time, how much they charged in fees, like 2%. And I think your jaw dropped and you said, man, those people, if I come across them, those types of clients that are getting charged 2%, I'm coming. There's no way they won't leave their advisor at some point, and if they don't go with me, they'll go with somebody else because that is so high with fees.
You nailed it, man. The world has changed. Things are getting better. We're able to do more for less, and I can't wait to rescue more clients from old school advisors.
In your opinion, is there anything that a firm could be doing to justify 2% fees?
I really can't. I mean, maybe on a very, very low asset level, but I mean, anything north of 500,000 or $1 million. I mean, that just feels so egregious unless they are doing like business consulting type stuff. Like if they're doing actually filing the taxes, like they are a CPA, and maybe they're doing payroll services and it's like an all-in type business relationship, that's maybe the only way I could see justifying that high of a fee. Otherwise, I think those folks are just dinosaurs waiting for the meteor to come down here.
Yeah. And you're saying that they would do all those services and that would be all inclusive. So they're not having to piecemeal. It's like, we'll do all this stuff, but we charge 2%.
And I see tax professionals or maybe advisors bringing in-house tax professionals just to justify the 1% fee. And I love that. That is some great competition. And that's really where I think the industry, if it wants to become a real profession, needs to continue to go.
I wasn't planning on asking this, but who's your ideal advisor that you would want to work with? I know there's going to be advisors listening that might be thinking of leaving their firm or like the idea of being virtual and selling virtual and stuff that might want to reach out. Kind of like how you had this video before people reached out to you to invest with you. What would be a preview of the type of advisor that you'd want to work with?
Yeah, I think someone that's self-sufficient, if they're looking to reap the rewards of their own hard labor, then I think they're going to fit well with me because my goal would be to be able to help them as much as I can, especially with the compliance side and a lot of just the BS of getting off the ground and making sure that your firm is registered and getting the technology in place. Like I've done all that work, and bringing on an additional advisor really doesn't cost substantially more, so I don't need to charge you an arm and a leg for that. And it's not going to take a lot of time. So I would be very open to having a very high payout, substantially higher than industry average, to just provide some of those basic support pieces and hand off a client relationship or two and just watch that advisor take off. and hopefully I can be a mentor, and tell them the things that I've learned along the way. So that would be probably the person, someone that's like, hey, I want to own my own business, but gosh, it is so frustrating to do all this extra stuff. I mean, I've been doing it for 8 years now, so I get it. And if I was maybe smarter back in the day, I probably wouldn't have even chosen that route. If I found me 8 years ago, I probably would just hitch my wagon to an advisor like myself, because I don't even care if you call your practice something different. You're welcome to be just in capital, and I'll just be in the background helping with the compliance and investment conversation, and someone to bounce your ideas off of.
That's awesome. Where do you think, I mean, I know you're toying around with the idea of hiring more people or what you're doing, but where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Well, right now I do have one advisor that I brought on like 2 months ago, and then another one coming on in either January, February of 26. So we'll see how those relationships go. Both of them very much fit the description I just said. They very much want to be independent, doing their own thing. They live in completely opposite sides of the country, these two individuals. So geography is not an issue. But if that goes well, I could see me stop taking on individual clients and starting to pass along relationships to advisors that I really know, like, and trust, and are doing processes and systems that, quite frankly, I do or that I see fit, and something that I can sign off on and really know these people are going to be well taken care of. That to me feels awesome. Now I can maybe go from serving 100 people to 200 people with 2 advisors, or 300 people with 3 advisors, or someday 1,000 relationships. And really, the goal, I know I'm not like doing anything radically different than a lot of firms, but I feel like I'm just another feather in the cap of moving this profession forward, and just having more advisors do better work for less, using technology, using ChatGPT to double check their work and be more efficient. You don't need to have a scheduling assistant. Like, that stuff can all be automated. You don't necessarily need to be having a trading desk or someone that only does performance reporting. Like, that type of stuff, in my opinion, should be automated. And I've put the tools in place to do it. So let's continue to serve more people for less, and keep this keep the industry moving forward, the profession moving forward.
What I love what you're saying there is, because you're saying let's serve more people for less by using automation tools. What I'm not hearing is let's use these automation tools, serve more people for the same amount, and make more money.
Well, I think that it's kind of like just being good is good for business. Like, I'm not just a good guy. I do believe I'm a good guy, but being good and honest is great for business, and you will make more money in the long run by being good and honest. You will get referrals and people will stay. Am I doing that as a sneaky way to make more money? Like, no, but is it a recipe for success? Yeah. Same thing with the being able to charge less and do more. Like, will that grow the business and make it more successful and profitable? Yeah. So I'm not just purely trying to serve more people and make the same. I think that both will happen. People will get better results. We'll be able to have more clients getting better results. And yes, the business will ultimately succeed even more. So I think it's just a 1 + 1 = 3 situation.
Yeah.
And I'm more than happy to brag about that. And if people are like, hey, you should be doing this in more of a charitable situation, that's fine. Find another advisor. I'm here to make money. And I'm also here to do really, really good work. And if that doesn't sit well with you, that's totally fine. Find a financial advisor that will do it for free. I question how good that work is going to be, how sustainable that model would be. But hey, that's okay. We can still be friends.
Right. Yeah, I love that. Just in closing, what's a piece of advice you'd give to someone just starting off in this business? Like, if you could tell yourself 8 years ago something today, what would you say?
Yeah, I think that I kind of underestimated the relationship side. I know a lot of people say that it's all about who you know, and I kind of agree with that, but I think it's more and less like when someone says, why would I pick AdviseWealth versus Fidelity? It's because Fidelity doesn't have Colin. And Colin is someone that is just going to be himself. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He cares maybe more than he should. He's going to pick up the phone whenever he can. He's going to call, text, email you back. I'm going to share photos of my daughter. I'm going to talk about snowboarding or dirt biking. Like, I'm going to have a little bit of fun while we meet. I'm probably going to crack some sarcastic jokes, and we're going to do great work. And that's just that is truly the relationship. And it's so true. Like, I would rather pay more for someone that's like working on my house if I knew that they really, really cared, like just really cared tremendously, that they do the best job at what they're doing. And I'm trying to do that for even less. And I hope that comes across as genuine and honest. And that's why I've posted 500 educational videos, because I understand that I am a virtual advisor, and I want you to be able to watch me demonstrate my value time and time again, so that to the point that you're like, yes, I really trust this guy, and he's also kind of fun.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'd say, like, trying to like just radically be yourself, I suppose, and trying to create those relationships is maybe what I was trying to get to in the heart of your question there, of giving recommendations to young people getting started. The only caveat I will say is that when I did get started, I wasn't working at my own practice. I didn't create my own culture, and I wasn't trying to create my own brand. So if you're going to go work at Goldman Sachs, they have a culture, they have a brand, and they have clients that really like and respect that culture and brand. So if you want to work at Goldman Sachs, maybe the advice I just gave you isn't necessarily the best. I think you'll probably have to turn your personality within the context of that brand. But I still believe having your own personality and having that personal relationship, having that personal touch is really, really important in this digital world where everything seems to be black and white and automated and just algorithmic, if that's even a word. So, trying to have that human touch, I think, is still going to be really important in wealth management.
I think that is such timely advice, especially in today's world, because of all the automation and the AI and the scare there. And I literally was texting with somebody right before I told them I'll get back to you because I have to jump on this podcast. But they were wondering about that, and I think automation is going to be it's awesome, and AI is going to change the world and all that stuff. But it will never replace Colin, and it will never replace Justin. And for the people who want to work with people they know, like, and trust, and don't want automation, like, we will never be out of jobs, I don't believe. And although some people might be attracted to auto advisor or whatever those things are called, but I don't think we will, as long as we continue to do right, serve our advisors, do more for less, and all that stuff, we will never be dinosaurs in that sense, regardless of how far AI comes along, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. I think that it's just like every other technology revolution that we've ever experienced. I mean, go to the Industrial Revolution and, or maybe a better example, the car makers. I mean, they put all the horse and buggy businesses out of business. And if you would have asked them, like, cars are the worst thing ever, but who would have known that all these wonderful jobs of mechanics or car salesmen or whatever the case would have created? I mean, you can just go down the line of all the wonderful new jobs that were created and new opportunities that were created out of all of these technology revolutions. So AI is just another one of those. Maybe it's a bigger one, but I think it's going to make creative people who care even more profitable and more useful in their careers.
Agreed. Well, Colin, I feel like we'll probably have another round in another year, and I'm going to check in with you and stuff, but I appreciate you being on this. This has been really fun, and it's good catching up and finding out what you've been doing.
Hey, keep up the great work, Justin. Glad to be here. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks, you too.
Bye.